Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head on UATV and I'm Oles Gerduk. Today we're discussing the meeting of the Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin and German Chancellor Angela Merkel held this weekend. The topics of their talks ranged from the war in Ukraine to the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline project. The meeting lasted for 3 hours and was held behind the closed doors. Therefore, lots of questions about its outcome remained unanswered. To try and answer at least some of them, we welcome to our studio today Mykola Kapitonenko, Director of the Center for International Studies NGO. Hello and thank you for being with us, Mr. Kapitonenko.
Hello, it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here also. So why do you think the meeting was held behind the closed doors, and moreover, there was no statement for press afterwards?
Well, we have recently seen the appearance of two political leaders before the press, meaning
Yes.
Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump.
The topics that they would talk about.
Yeah, but that meeting was a shock in many ways. I mean the Trump-Putin meeting. So this time, to make it a little bit different, I think both political leaders decided to remain outside the press. I think there are two key reasons for that. One of them is that this can be taken differently, the meeting itself, both in Germany and in other European states, since the dialogue with Vladimir Putin is always a controversial thing. And I think that Merkel was not going to allow too much attention to this meeting and to the results. And the second reason is that actually there were no specific results to be shown, no documents signed, no specific decisions taken, a certain range of issues discussed.
But can we be sure about that no decisions were taken?
I think there were no decisions, since this was a very working meeting, I would say, and they have been discussing issues on energy security, on economic issues, including those related to American sanctions against Iran. They were discussing geopolitical issues a bit, Syria and Ukraine, but there have been no new ideas. Specifically what concerns Ukraine and Syria.
In the agenda. But after the negotiations, they had some kind of a private talk without the interpreters. What does this mean? How usual is this kind of situation? And what does it tell about the relations between Putin and Merkel?
This is certainly a signal that there is a certain specific closeness between Putin and Merkel, that they can discuss whatever they want without public attention, that there is a certain intimacy probably between them. And this is a signal that there is no longer diplomatic isolation of Russia. Recent several months have been very active for Vladimir Putin, who was meeting Donald Trump, Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, a number of leaders, world leaders, with whom he may speak freely, with whom he may speak without interpreters, and in a closed settlement.
Do you think that international diplomats are giving up on Ukraine?
I don't think that they are giving up, but there is a very specific situation when they need to maintain a dialogue with Russia, something they were telling about for quite a long time. They need to continue to discuss issues of international agenda.
Well, of course, because this is the only way to resolve them.
Yeah, but this agenda has become much more complicated because of Russia's decision. And now many of them need Russia. And one of the reasons for that, by the way, is the steps taken by Donald Trump's administration, which has upset the world order in many ways. So Russia is highly needed. At the same time, there is a need to punish in a way, to signal that what Russia is doing is unacceptable, and this goes against the world order, as Henry Kissinger put it in March 2014. So this dilemma is something which every political leader in the West has to deal in its own way. Some of them decide not to communicate with Putin, some of them discuss urgent issues with him, some of them invite him for the weddings. So many ways to deal with Russia today.
But the thing that I wonder about after this kind of private talk, should we be afraid of some kind of collusion between Merkel and Putin?
There are strategic interests which are common for Russia and Germany, and they will pursue them.
For example, Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline.
Certainly.
Yes.
So I think they have something similar in views on regional security in the Middle East, for instance, not only Syria, but also the issue of Iran, probably they would agree that the conflict in Ukraine should be kept on a low level as it is today, and do not escalate.
So they would agree to frozen it?
They would agree to frozen, but they may have differences in how exactly it should be frozen. They have different opinions on possible peacekeeping mission, UN peacekeeping mission to Ukraine. They have different opinions on on the issue of Crimea, certainly.
But wasn't Merkel stating that Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline will not be built if Russia will not adhere to the Minsk agreements, if if the situation in Ukraine will not start getting somehow resolved?
I think that the instrument with which Germany is going to influence Russia's policy in Ukraine and towards Ukraine is sanctions, but it is not the instrument. But it's not Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is very in favor. I mean, Germany's position is very much in favor of this project.
Yeah, they're very interested.
Yeah, they're very interested, and they will get probably most out of all of the rest of the European countries if the pipeline would be built. So I don't think that this is something with which Germany would try to influence Russia's behavior.
So the United States came up with a new package of sanctions that might be imposed if Russia continues building Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. Will they concern just Russia or also Germany as a main interested energy partner in this case?
The sanctions, American sanctions, are designed in such a way that to impact almost everybody who has anything to do with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. This is a very broad instrument which would affect not only Russia or Germany, but any other company from any other country which has something to deal with the project.
What countries do participate in this project?
A lot of. We even do not know exactly, because this is a huge investment project which would demand huge investments from different sources, and different companies are taking part in technologically in constructing the pipeline.
But at least on what territories will this pipe lay on?
It goes under the Baltic Sea, and it touches the territories of the Baltic states, mainly Sweden, the Baltic states, Denmark, and Germany itself. So their positions are important, but as far as I know, everything is settled for the project to be constructed. And I'm not sure that American sanctions would be able to prevent it.
Do you think Americans advocate for their sellings of gas to Europe, or do they advocate more for Ukraine?
Certainly they are not advocating for Ukraine. They have long-term strategic interests, which probably have something to do with decreasing Russia's share on European market of natural gas, which is huge. About 30% of all the gas which is imported to the European Union is from Russia, and rising. I'm not thinking that Americans are trying to fight for their own share, because it is minimal. Europe consumes very low volumes of American liquefied gas, and probably there is an opportunity to make it more. But I don't think that it's going to be in the nearest future. So I think that Americans are after long-term geopolitical interests of decreasing this mutual interdependence between Europe and Russia, not so much because of economic considerations.
What could these new restrictions be possibly about?
They are targeted financial sanctions which would would hit all the companies which deal with the project, and by imposing different measures, restricting measures on American markets and for American financing. So this is a purely economic instrument, and everybody who is taking part in this project would have to make a very careful cost-benefits analysis of whether it is still beneficial to continue to participate in the project.
So they will face some consequences. But in your opinion, what are the chances that the construction might be stopped under this pressure?
I would say the chances are very low, and I think that the probability that the project would be completed and actually next year already are pretty high. It's, in my opinion, above 60%. So I would say that only about 40% chance that the project would be stopped.
40%?
40%.
Okay. What else do we need for increasing this kind of pressure, so it's not 40, but, for example, 80%?
We actually need to understand that Ukraine faces a very deep structural problem of its gas transportation system. We have to make it more compatible. If we do not make it more compatible, even if the Nord Stream 2 is stopped, then always there will be threats of other gas transit routes which would somehow go away from the territory of Ukraine. We will become less important transit state in the future just because it is economically less beneficial to transport gas through Ukrainian territory and certainly because of the security considerations.
But is Russia's position about competitiveness of Ukrainian transport system?
Basically, yes. What Russia offers to Europeans is a more direct route which does not go through the territories of third states and does not require payments for that. Which is directly transporting natural gas to Germany.
So it's going to be cheaper for them to transport this gas?
Certainly, and it is much more profitable for Germans, for instance, because they will sell, and they will become a hub, and they will sell natural gas to other European states, and a number of other European states also will become hubs for further reselling of Russian natural gas. And that's why Russians are partly correct in saying that this is a purely economic project. This has nothing to do with politics, has nothing to do with attempts to, I don't know, to undermine Ukraine's sovereignty or statehood.
Well, it can be an economic project, but we can never be sure that it doesn't have any political meaning.
It will definitely affect Ukrainian effectiveness, definitely affect Ukrainian perspectives, Ukrainian security,
yes,
and things like those. But we have to understand that in order to deal with those challenges, it would be not enough for us just to say that you should not cooperate with Russia because it is an aggressor.
Well, before meeting Putin, Merkel referred on the matter, quote, I think that even after the launch of Nord Stream 2, Ukraine must continue to play its role in gas transit to Europe. What kind of role is she talking about? What kind of role may we play after launch of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline? Will anything be left for us?
Yes, it will be. It will be left. Some part will be left for us because the Nord Stream 2, even together with possible pipelines in the south, will not be enough to transport large volumes of Russian gas to Europe, and they will still need Ukrainian transportation system.
How much would they need?
But the question is how much. Yes, now it is. Roughly estimation is that we will have the volumes of Russian gas transported through Ukrainian system drops by 2/3.
Two-thirds.
So that will mean, yes, that will mean the loss of about $2 up to $3 billion per year.
This is a significant loss.
Which is to about 3% of Ukrainian GDP. This is a huge loss. And
what was the current GDP?
Current Ukrainian GDP is around $100 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And if we lose 2-3% annually, that would mean that we will be back to recession. And that will create problems of different type as well, meaning that we will have to buy natural gas from other states, from Slovakia, for instance. But the price of this gas will be much higher because of the different transportation route and because of a changed role of Slovakia as a hub.
So it's going to be still Russian gas, but just transported through different countries to Ukraine?
There still will be Russian gas, but just as today we're buying Russian gas, not from Russia, but from other European states. But the situation for us is more favorable because we still have this leverage as a transit country, which will be significantly weakened as soon as Nord Stream 2 is constructed.
Well, this is a sad note to conclude our conversation with, but anyway, thank you for clearing this topic out for us, and thank you for coming to our studio. That was Mykola Kapitonenko, Director of the Center for International Studies NGO. Thank you for watching Head to Head. I'm Olas Gerjuk. Goodbye.